So you mentioned Warlord,
Yeah,
which was interesting because the album, I remember before the newest Warlord album, Free Spirits Story, came out, everyone was pissed off. There's no Bill Samus.
yeah.
And then the album came out and everybody completely changed their tune. And what was it like being a part of that album? And playing with, because you played with Mark Zonder in that band. And, the album actually, that album did really well, but it seems like the tour has gone well.
Everything about it has gone well. And it's not that I was surprised. It's just these days I've done enough of this stuff and toured enough, and that you don't always, it's not like you get all, oh man, this is going to kill. We're going to take over the world, and that used to be the attitude. Oh, we're going to make it. This is going to be a number one, whatever. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect anything out of Warlord other than I really like the people in the band. Eric and Diego, the guitar players, are just the coolest guys and some of the best musicians I've ever played with. Philip Bino, well, it doesn't get better than that as a bass player, and he's a great, and as a person. And Zonder, I had done a Graham Bonnet record with Mark, so I'd done a couple of records with Mark actually before that, so I knew him. And he's great, easygoing, and fun to be with. And Giles singing. So for me, it was like, okay. And doing that record, I played Bill Samus's parts. That he did all the keyboards, and I just copped his parts. And I came as to honor him, and I thought that was the right thing to do. Play them as close as possible to his feel. And Bill's got an interesting feel. It's not just straight up. He does things that, as a keyboard player, that's not what I would do. I would not play them exactly the same way, but I played them the way he played them off the demos. And that was fun for me. It was a real challenge, and it took me a lot longer to do that than it would normally do to keyboards, but it was fun. And I didn't have any big expectations. I was just kind of having fun. I like working with the people, and all the playing on it was great and all that. And the label seemed to be real excited about it. So I thought, hey, great. And then Giles said, well, we're going to tour. And I thought, cool. So, and then the first gigs we did were just like, wow, holy cow. These people, they knew every lyric. We played festivals, we played little clubs. Everybody knows every lyric. They know everything about the band. So that part of it is a lot of fun. It's great.
Speaking of Mark Zonder, he said you were like one of the unsung heroes of the newest A to Z album.
Oh.
And it was just the style. And I agreed with him on that, because when I reviewed that record, one of the things that I thought was interesting about it in your role on the album is that your keyboard parts had this kind of aggression to them, that really sort of set that album off. Because, if you want to talk about an album with like an all-star cast of musicians, I mean, it's that record. And I have to ask, man, your approach on that album was great. And talk a bit about recording that, because I'll be honest with you, it's probably one of my favorite albums of the year.
Wow. That's a huge compliment. Mark and I are friends and been friends for a while. So Mark was the producer, and Mark brought me in on that and said, I want you to play keyboards on this. And I said, okay.
Right.
And I said, and he and I were talking like 3 times a day, because he has ideas. And Mark is he doesn't play keyboards or guitar, but Mark is really good at explaining the feel that he wants, the vibe,
sure.
And so he would just say, man, do B3. I want Hammond. We got to do some Hammond stuff. But I wasn't expecting that. I thought, oh, well, okay. I love playing Hammond, obviously, and my B3's sitting there, my Leslie's right behind me. So I was like, okay, cool. And the first stuff I did, I was using the Leslie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're familiar with the Leslie, what it does, but.
So I own a B3.
Okay. Well,
tighten up the strap and the speaker.
Okay.
Get the distortion.
Okay. Yeah. So I was using my Leslie, and I have a whole bunch of amps I use. I customized it myself, and I have my own switch box and crap. My favorite amp for that is my Fender Champ, my 60s Fender Champ.
Okay.
The B3 into that, no pedals, nothing. I cranked that. I just put everything on 10, and it just screams. And I have a soundproof box that it's in. And if you open that door, it's like a jet taking off with that silly little Fender Champ. But anyway, so I did that, and Zonder goes, well, what's that sound, that swirly sound? I said, well, that's the Leslie. And he goes, well, can you do it without the Leslie? Do stuff without the Leslie. So I have I use my Marshall and a Celestion bottom, and I put it through that. And I do that a lot. I use that anyway. And so I was just playing straight B3 through a Marshall and a Celestion with a 57 on it. And Zonder loved it. And I just had fun. I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to make this way or that way. I just was, and he said, just have fun, just go for it. So that's kind of what I did. And the more I did, the more he asked of me. He would say, well, can you do this? Oh man, that'd be cool. Can you do a mini moog part here? Or whatever. And I was using Mellotrons and stuff, and he's not totally familiar with a Mellotron. So he just said, yeah, that keyboard sound, that's cool. That's cool. Do that at the out chorus, or whatever. But
right.
So he and I worked together a lot on that record. I mean, he had very good direction to me. He gave me great direction on that. So
yeah,
but thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. That's for sure.
And again, it was one of those things where I picked up on that right away when I heard the first single, and I'm listening to the album. And then interestingly enough, I remember Mark came on my show. We started talking about that. And then I didn't read his Facebook post, but I guess right before the interview, maybe a day before, he mentioned that. And then he mentioned it to me because I picked up on it right away. That was one of the things that, for me, set the second album out, set it apart from the first one. First one, it was very good, but this second A to Z album, I thought, was just totally, it felt different. It felt like everybody had been playing it together as a band for like a decade. You know how that is. You play together. Where the first one was a little bit more, it felt like it was a little bit more constructed, whereas it felt more natural on the second album. It's probably my best way to describe that.
Well, and I think even though we hadn't been playing together for a decade, but the first record was done that way. It was a little bit more of a, put together project kind of vibe. And it was a great record. And those guys are great musicians. That keyboard player and guitar player, great players. I don't know them, but they're great players. And I thought that first record was really good. So, but again, I don't dwell on well, man, that first record was great. We got to do better than that. I just do what I do. And I hear a song and I'm like, well, okay, don't step on the vocal and have fun, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Mark was saying, play anything you want, just play everywhere. But he loved that Hammond sound. So I went there, but yeah, even though we didn't play as a band, we all were dealing with each other during the record. And like a Philip Bino, that guy, he doesn't need to play with you for 10 albums to get the vibe. He had played with Mark for years. So the two of those guys, and live, it's like one person. It's like you'd swear that there's only one person playing the bass and the drums because they're so tight.
Yeah.
And it was that way on the record. But when we did the record, we cut a lot of the stuff. And then Mark goes, okay, so let's do it for real now. Everybody replay their parts to the real drums, because he did drums and we played to that. But he says, okay, I've been listening. I'm going to do the drums again. And then let's play it all over again to my new drum tracks. And that made a huge difference because we were all into the music by then. Everybody was familiar with it and into it, and so by the time we did it again, which didn't take long because we'd already done it.
Right.
Mark replayed the drums and wow, everybody just locked right in. And it was
Yeah.
great. Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that record.
Hey, it's Tony here from the Metal Command Show. I want to thank you for watching this portion of the program. Since 1998, I have hosted the show, which started off as a radio program and is now into the podcast format. So I want to thank you for watching and or listening. And if you want to support the program, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell to be notified anytime I do post any content. A lot of you have been supporting the show and really, really helping this show grow, and I cannot do it without all of you. So with that said, thanks for watching. Stay metal.